On the news, National Economic Council suspends removal of fuel subsidy. Be president as he holds Guinean citizenship, Atiku tells tribunal. And Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, denies involvement in the illegal sale of 48 million barrels of crude oil. Hello and welcome to News Now on TV360 Nigeria. I am Folashade Ogurinde. Barring last-minute changes, previous plans by the President Muhammadu Buhari-led administration to stop payment of fuel subsidy by June this year has been cancelled. This comes as the National Economic Council next suspended the planned removal of subsidy on petroleum products by the end of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration. Briefing journalists, the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, explained that NEC concluded in its meeting that it is not a favourable time for the action. She further explained that the Council agreed on the need to continue the discussion on the matter as well as necessary preparatory work in conjunction with states and representatives of the incoming administration.
Is that it is not going to be removed now, which means it will not be removed before the transition is completed. That's what it means. But then we have two laws that have inadvertently made the provision that we should exit by June. So if the committee's work, which will include the representatives of the incoming administration, determine that the removal can be done by June, then the work plan will be designed to exit as of June. But if the determination is that the period needs to be extended, it will mean that we will have, as a country, will have to revisit the Appropriation Act, for example, because the 2023 budget only made provision up to June. So if we are extending beyond June, it means we have to revisit the Appropriation Act and do a supplementary or amend the bill and also the PIA. These are the reasons why we had to do this consultation with NEC to get inputs from the governors. They are going to provide to us their representatives to work together with us to have a defined process that will take us towards the removal. But one thing that is clear is everybody agreed that the subsidy should be removed very quickly because the cost is only not efficient, but it's also not sustainable. And that when the time comes for removal, the removal will be done once and for all.
The presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Atiku Abubakar, says President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu is unfit to contest for the office of president owing to his dual citizenship of Nigeria and Guinea. Atiku made the claim in his response to Tinubu's preliminary objection filed before the Presidential Election Petition Court in Abuja. He further said that Tinubu is unfit to govern the country, having been indicted for drug-related offences in the United States and made to forfeit a sum of $460,000 as a compromise agreement. Atiku added that Tinubu failed to secure 25% of the votes cast in the Federal Capital Territory as constitutionally required. Tinubu had in a reply asked the tribunal to dismiss Atiku's petition, contending that he had no right whatsoever to be returned as the winner of the election, having lost successive presidential elections in Nigeria since the year 1993. The chairman of Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, NIDCOM, Abike Dabiri Arewa, has said that the first batch of the evacuees from war-torn Sudan will arrive in the country on board on Air Peace Airline on Friday. While giving an update on the presidential villa in Abuja on the efforts made so far by the federal government to evacuate Nigerians from Sudan, Abike also explained that more than 3 million Nigerians are living in Sudan.
We've got millions of Nigerians in Sudan, but there's been migration to Sudan, if you go through history, and a lot of them have settled there doing their businesses. A lot of them are businessmen there, and a lot of students, of course, you know. And at this point in time, we're dealing with 5,500 students. Now, that is not the population. Some people are mixing it up. That is the number of students studying there. But in terms of Nigerians in Sudan, they run into millions. And I'm talking of, from what we have, almost 3 million Nigerians in Sudan who have made it their homes, for years. So that is the current update, and more buses will be expected to depart to Aswan. Air Peace, every other thing being the same, should depart this evening to go to Aswan, and we are hoping that by tomorrow, every other thing being the same, by Friday, we should be able to have in the first set of evacuees arrive in Nigeria.
The Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, has denied any involvement in the illegal sale of 48 million barrels of crude oil export from 2014 till date. Malami made this known when he appeared before the House of Representatives ad hoc committee investigating the alleged loss of over $2.4 billion in unremitted oil revenue. Speaking on details of accounts into which recoveries were paid, Malami explained that the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, maintained these accounts, not the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation. As regard details of the whistleblowers as requested by the committee, the Minister of Justice said that disclosing any information violates confidentiality. President Muhammadu Buhari has attended the Nigerian Army Trooping and Presentation of Colors Parade at the Eagle Square on Thursday. Now, clad in ceremonial military uniform, the president reviewed over 1,000 officers participating in the parade. The president also unveiled 28 of the 81 national and regimental colors for the newly established and operationalized units.
Today's ceremony is a continuation of our effort to reinvigorate the fighting spirit of our troops through the inculcation of greater pride in their units. Let me use this medium to sincerely commend the officers and men of the Army, all members of the armed forces, and other security agencies for their exceptional performances in various operations across the country. At the inception of this administration, the nation's security situation was greatly challenged by the activities of violent non-state actors. Today, I am pleased to specifically note that the situation has tremendously improved, and I wish to also proudly highlight that we have made remarkable progress in the fight against insurgents, militants, oil bunkerers, kidnappers, and other criminal elements in the country. This administration has achieved remarkable transformation of the military in the areas of fighting power, training, operations, manpower, remunerations, and medical services.
The Supreme Court has granted leave to the federal government to bring 9 new grounds of appeal against the release of detained leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu. A 5-member panel of justices led by Justice John Okoro granted a leave while ruling on the motion by the counsel to the federal government, Tijani Ghazali. The Apex Court also granted leave to the federal government to include the 9 new grounds as part of its amended notice of appeal dated 28 October 2022. The court subsequently adjourned until the 11th of next month for hearing on the pending motion and the main appeal. CSOs under the aegis of Center for Human Socio-Economic Rights have called on the Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu to prioritize halting the menace of land grabbing in the state. Speaking during the media briefing on Wednesday in Lagos, President of the group, Alex Omotesine, expressed concern over the unlawful activities of land grabbers in the Etiosa local government area of Lagos State. The group added that besides threatening public peace, the activities of land grabbers is causing serious economic losses to the government as investors are scared to put their money in lands that they are not sure of tomorrow.
CHSR is, however, more concerned that most of the land being forcibly confiscated by these land grabbers are legally and validly documented by the original owner, most of whom are in possession of genuine deed of assignment and with full authorization of the relevant family from whom the lands were purchased. To this end, we are concerned about the seeming complicity of certain actors in the land registry of Lagos State, without which connivance, falsification or forgery of land documents by land grabbers and their collaborators could not be successfully carried out. We are therefore calling on other traditional rulers under the platform of Lagos State Council of Traditional Rulers to rise in unison to denounce the activities of land grabbers in Lagos State. We wish to see concrete steps being taken as a matter of urgency by the Lagos State government towards addressing the menace of land grabbers in Lagos State.
Over the years, female representation in governance has continued to decline despite efforts to boost their numbers. The recent election in February and March this year showed a clear picture of the poor state of women participation in governance. Only 3 women out of a total of 92 women who vied for seats at the Senate won their mandates. In the House of Representatives, only 15 emerged winner out of 286 were contested. As a solution, Kimpact's Development Initiative has organized a one-day gender-sensitive reporting training for media personnel. Our correspondent, Tamilore Akinkowule, has the details in this report.
No less than 25 media personnel are yet to receive training on gender-sensitive reporting. The aim is to sensitize journalists to shun reportage that portrays women as weak and stereotypes that limit and trivialize women in the society. According to organizers of the training, Kimpact's Development Initiative, lack of gender-sensitive reporting in Nigeria media is linked to the steady decline in women participation in politics and governance.
You know, democracy is all about inclusion. It's all about representation and equal representation for that matter. So one of the things we look at is that the women representation is low, and it has always been like that since we returned to democracy in 1999. So what we have tried to do is to look at the root cause, what has been the issues, and that is what led us to a different strategy of coming up to see how we can mitigate this downward trend in terms of women representation. So one of the things we've been able to come up is this media pally with people to understand what do we need to do from the media angle to see how we can increase women representation in leadership, and which is key. So one of the things we need to now begin to look at is also how do we now begin to reorientate people from that cultural perspective, from that religious perspective. And one of the key instruments to do that is media. Media is a powerful tool. Tool for reorientation, re-engineering, and education.
The media needs to be intentional. They need to see the gap and know that we cannot reflect reality when just one sex is populating the assembly. So what we need to do is to expose what we have seen, let people have the data, and let people take action.
Advocates say more women participation in politics could be used to provide solutions to tackle the issue of insecurity, eradicate poverty, and also reduce different levels of illiteracy.
Women play critical roles. They also have perspectives that might be different from that of men. We are not saying necessarily better, but it's important that we harness the perspectives that women can bring to the political game and to leadership position to improve better lives for us, and even ensure better economic outcomes for all.
Cultural norms, religions, use of language, misinformation, and fake news are major factors that contribute to the low participation of women in politics in Nigeria.
We'll take a break here, but still to come on News Now. World Health Organization says COVID deaths down 95% in 2023. We bring you details of this story and more right after this break.
Opinions are free, facts are sacred, but truth is universal.
How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
President must see himself as the President of the Federal Republic.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places. The Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On Digi 360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts, and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians say in this part of the world.
A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it, use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
Digi 360, dissecting the issues.
Welcome back. A recap now of our top stories tonight. Barring last-minute changes, previous plans by the President, Muhammadu Buhari-led administration to stop payment of fuel subsidy by June this year has been cancelled. This comes as the National Economic Council suspended the planned removal of subsidy on petroleum products by the end of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration. We also told you that presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Atiku Abubakar, says President-elect Bola Tinubu is unfit to contest for the office of president owing to his dual citizenship of Nigeria and Guinea. He further said that Tinubu is unfit to govern the country, having been indicted for drug-related offences in the United States and made to forfeit a sum of $400,000 as a compromise agreement. But in case you missed any of our news bulletin, for more updates, you can catch us on Limex4 TV or log on to our website on www.tv360nigeria.com. You can also follow us on our social media platforms on Twitter, Instagram and YouTube at TV360 Nigeria. On Facebook, we are TV360 Online. The World Health Organization, WHO, says COVID-19 deaths had dropped by 95% since the start of the year, but warned the virus was still on the move. WHO Chief Tedros Ghebreyesus at a press conference, however, warned that COVID-19 was here to stay and countries would have to learn how to manage its ongoing non-emergency effects, including post-COVID-19 condition or long COVID. Tedros reiterated that the WHO remained hopeful of declaring an end to COVID-19 as a public health emergency of international concern. The WHO chief also explained how the COVID-19 pandemic disrupted vaccination programs, with an estimated 67 million children missing out on at least one essential jab between 2019 and 2021.
We're very encouraged by the sustained decline in reported deaths from COVID-19, which have dropped 95% since the beginning of this year. However, some countries are seeing increases, and over the past 4 weeks, 14,000 people lost their lives to this disease. An estimated 1 in 10 infections results in post-COVID-19 condition, suggesting that hundreds of millions of people will need longer-term care. And as the emergence of the new XBB.1.16 variant illustrates, the virus is still changing and is still capable of causing new waves of disease and death. We remain hopeful that sometime this year, we will be able to declare an end to COVID-19 as a public health emergency of international concern.
Moderna Incorporated has failed to persuade a Delaware federal judge on Wednesday to shift liability from the company to the U.S. government for alleged patent infringement by company's COVID-19 vaccine. Chief Judge Com Connolly's ruling for Alnylam Lab Pharmaceuticals Incorporated comes just over a month after a different judge in Delaware rejected Moderna's similar motion in another vaccine patent lawsuit. The case is a part of a wave of patent lawsuits that have been filed over technology used in the COVID-19 shots, including one filed by Moderna against Pfizer last year. Well, up next is business news right after this break. Just stay with us. Welcome back. Let's now join Simi Saladigun for more stories in business. Simi, over to you.
Thank you very much, Falashade. Welcome to Business News. The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited has signed a memorandum of understanding with Norway's Garlo LNG to build a floating liquefied natural gas plant in the country. The NNPCL disclosed on Twitter that the MOU was signed by its Chief Executive Director Mele Kyari and Gola CEO Carl Frederick Storbo in Abuja. Gola has in the past indicated plans to set up a power project in Nigeria that could use one of its vessels to import LNG. The Debt Management Office says Nigeria is actively reducing debt service cost by accessing World Bank loans. The office took this position in a statement on Wednesday while clarifying issues relating to the nation's indebtedness to the multilateral organization. Nigerians have continued to express displeasure over the federal government's incessant borrowings, especially with the country's total public debt at 46.25 trillion naira and a growing debt service cost. In 2022, Nigeria's debt service to revenue ratio was at 80.6%, a figure far above World Bank suggested 22.5% for low-income countries like Nigeria. I will take a short break and return with a review of the stock market. Well, for the third time this week, Nigeria's equities have closed in the positive region after rising by 75 billion naira on Thursday. The 0.27% increase is accompanied by a rise in the all-share index, which is 52,235.88 basis points. Market breadth also increased as trading ended with 26 gainers and 18 losers. Now, stocks like Cadbury Nigeria and Fitsin Healthcare helped the markets record its third positive return this week. Both top the list of gainers, ending trade with increases of 12 naira 30 kobo and 9 naira 29 kobo respectively. Now, at the close of trading on Thursday, investors exchanged 335 million volume of shares valued at 17 billion naira in 6,958 deals. Now, let's go to our select foreign stocks. It's another day of mixed trading. In the US Dow Jones, trading and ended in the positive region. So also in the Japan's Nikkei, both had a 0.2% and 0.15% increase, leaving the UK's FTSE in the bears at 0.31%. Well, that's the stock market report. Falashade, back to you.
Many thanks, Misla, for that update. And on the foreign scene, the US and South Korea have secured a landmark deal to counter the North Korean nuclear threat. Washington has agreed to periodically deploy US nuclear-armed submarines to South Korea and involve Seoul in its nuclear planning operations. In return, South Korea has agreed to not develop its own nuclear weapons. The Washington declaration will strengthen the allies' cooperation in deterring a North Korean attack, U.S. President Joe Biden also disclosed. And in sport, Frank Lampard has admitted that angry Chelsea fans had every right to boo his team after it suffered a fifth successive defeat in a dismal 2-0 setback against Brentford on Wednesday. Cesar Azpilicueta's own goal and Brian Mbeumo's late strike condemned Lampard to his latest demoralising loss since replacing the sacked Graham Potter. Chelsea has failed to score in 6 of its last 7 games and is languishing in 11th place in the Premier League. And that's it from the newsroom. Many thanks for watching. I am Folashade Ogurinde. Bye for now.